So I was watching this thinking this is not really a movie about animals or about the wilderness as such. It's about motherhood.
Hmm.
Is that
Yeah.
what you focused on?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the journey at the core of this that is unique. As you know, mothers are sort of famously missing from animated films, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, they're
Um,
usually dead or stepmothers.
yeah, when I was a story artist. That's where I learned my craft. That's how I learned it. And I was at Disney, and I was on the story team for Aladdin. Originally, that film had a mom. Aladdin had a mom, and she was
Hmm.
eventually removed because, first of all, like moms know better. In the best way possible, they stop stories from happening because they keep kids from making massive mistakes.
That's why the parents are often absent in fairy tales and other stories.
100%. You need and
Hmm.
and you need your protagonist to be free to make mistakes and go on an adventure, and you don't have to cut back to somebody who's in desperately looking for them, which Aladdin's mom was for a while until
Yeah.
we removed from the story. At the core of this movie is a motherhood story, and that is absolutely unique. I think that's one of the things that makes it so different. One of the reasons I wanted to work on it.
What was it about her transition? It's her robot, whatever. Transition from just being a problem solving machine to really caring. What was the challenge of making that clear to the audience?
It's kind of it. It's clear and not clear because when as she drifts off script, it's a gradual thing,
Hmm.
and but we understand she is because the first thing she says when she realizes that this little gosling is imprinting on her, the first thing she says is, "I do not have the programming for this," and she actually walks away. She's like, "Forget it," and she moves on.
Yeah.
And of course, Pinktail, the possum, voiced by Catherine O'Hara, accidentally says the magic word. She says, "Taking care of him is your task now." And task accomplishment is at the core of a ROZZUM robot's being. So we had to build in a really clear
Hmm.
reaction in Roz, and we kept pushing it because we were like, is it clear enough that a trigger just happened?
Hmm.
So a chime sounds, lights go, her body goes through a series of movements very quickly. And I would imagine if you ordered a ROSM robot in the owner's manual, it would say that you say these words and she will take on a task. And if you set it properly, you'll hear these sounds, and now you know that your ROSM unit has taken on the task. And a ROSM will not quit until that task is accomplished. And
You
so
know,
we see her say, I can't do this,
yep.
but then she gets the task and she has to do it.
It reminded me of the baby boom, that movie with Diane Keaton, where you had this very task focused, work focused type A woman who suddenly has a baby. And I wonder, there's probably a lot of people out there that are going to relate to that.
Yeah, it's like when an earthquake hits in California. You're like, I'm not ready for this. It's like, too bad. Here I am.
You're never ready for this.
You're never ready for kids or an earthquake.
What's the one thing you want people to take away, especially moms, but
Um,
everybody?
yeah, I think a dose of I want to say reality, like in the best sense possible, that we're not overly sentimental about what the job is and what
Hmm.
happens, and that's by design because Roz has to improvise in order to accomplish this thing, which pushes her off script, but that makes her grow. And one of the
Hmm.
things that we don't talk about nearly enough is that as she becomes more damaged, she becomes a stronger being, and in a lot of ways, a more beautiful being. It's there's a line that I put in the film midpoint where she comments that she's kind of a mess, and the character of Bill Nye's character says, "I'd say you shine like new." That was very important to me.